Greetings everyone, and welcome to our Week 2 Zoom class for our online college writing class. Remember, this week is different because of the Monday holiday. We did not have our synchronous Zoom class, so this week is asynchronous. You are required to watch this video. There are a few questions. It is important that you take notes and answer all of the questions. I would recommend either having another window open where you are typing the answers to your question, or maybe you're writing them down on paper and you'll type them in later. Either way, you are responsible for watching this video, answering all of the prompts, and then emailing me janice.bayer, B-A-Y-E-R, @normandale.edu. You must send me an email that is proof of your participation in this video. It will count as your attendance grade for week 2, and you must do that by the end of the day on Tuesday. So, without any further ado, here is our week 2 Zoom class. It has been shortened to accommodate the fact that we didn't have class yesterday and it's a shorter week. Okay, so first, number 1, I want to know how's everything going. What questions do you have? How did week 1 go? What's working? What's not working? What do you need help with? So I would pause the video here. Number 1, I want to know how everything's going. Okay, at this point we're going to move on. If you are still writing your checking in response, you should pause the video because I'm going to move on. Next, number 2, you are going to do an informal writing that we would have done in class. This is a 7-minute writing. Remember not to be too rigid with that 7 minutes. It's a guideline. In general, most students set a timer for 7 minutes, but then of course they finish their thinking and finish their writing before they submit their work. They don't just say, oh, timer went off, 7 minutes is up, and stop mid-thought or mid-sentence. So it's important to have a cohesive response here. This week it's about secrets, hey and non, in episode 2. The episode 2 actually covers their entire relationship and how secretive it was. And so I want you to be thinking about what secrets you've kept in your own life or what secrets you've observed other people keeping. You're going to set the stage, you're going to tell the story. You can certainly include like what you were thinking, the devil versus the angel idea. You can include that if it makes sense. If it doesn't, you don't have to. Just make sure you're writing about a secret, telling a story of how everything turned out and what the ramifications were, the outcomes. Just tell me a story. So you're going to submit this 7-minute writing to the assignment folder that's in week 2. Start here. It's in before and after class documents. The assignment folder is called Secrets. I was actually going to show that to you now. That way the navigation is not so tricky. So I'm going to escape out of this presentation and I'm going to go into our course. I am in our class. Remember, we're using the file cabinet on this side of the screen. I am in week 2. I'm going to open this folder and then I'm going to go to the Start Here folder, and once I get there, I am going to be in the Before and After Class Documents folder, and there it is, the Secrets Assignment folder. You can see that it is due, and again, that due date right now will be changed so that you have all the way until Tuesday night to submit it, but there is the folder and that's where you will put your assignment when you are done. Okay, so number 2 is your secrets in formal writing. Again, you will submit it to the assignment folder. You do not have to have it in the email that you send to me. You can just say, I put this in the assignment folder, I'm done with step 2. Okay, next, we're going to do a little review of the 6 traits of writing that you learned about in the voice thread last week. This is one of my favorite pieces of what's called flash fiction. It's by Stacy Budzko. It's called How to Set a House on Fire. I'm actually going to read this part to you, this paragraph, and then I think you should pause the video when I'm done reading it, and I want you to pull out one good example of 5 of the 6 traits. We don't have to do conventions. Remember, that would be silly to talk about the different comma use. This has been edited. It doesn't need to, we don't need to talk about conventions. You will do the other 5 traits. It might be a good idea to list them on a sheet of paper. You should be looking for ideas and content. You should be looking for organization. You should be looking for voice, word choice, and sentence fluency. So those are the 5 traits that you you learned about as you looked at the essay A Sin last week. And so this is the essay I want you to look at those examples for. And again, I'm going to read it to you. There's a reason for that. And after listening to the voice thread last week, you should know what that reason is. Okay. Before you light the gas, light a cigarette under the old red maple in the front yard, under the hunter's moon, and take a last look. Before this, walk through the ranch house with a miner's lamp and pesticide sprayer topped off with high-test racing fuel. Before it was your house, it was your father's house. And before it was your father's house, it was his father's house, too. Before foreclosure on the family farm, before the new highway. Spray the gaps in the oak floorboards and get into the heating ducts. Hit the horsehair plaster and take out electric sockets. Then run a heavy gas line out to the barn. There's the combine. That is the backhoe. At one time, chickens lived here. Before leaving, make sure the hay bales drip with fuel. This was feed once. On your way, toss your house keys into the water well. Before doing anything else, make a wish. Okay, pause the presentation here, and again, you're pulling out one good example of each of those 5 traits. Make sure that you quote the text as well as explain why the part you've chosen is a good example of the trait. I'm going to move the presentation on now. I hope that you finished that first part, and here is the rest of the story. After filling the bird bath next to the old red maple with the remaining octane, call Herm up at the fire station. After he gets on the line, tell him to come over and bring a truck or 2, with the crew. There's not much to see now, really. After he asks why, tell him. Tell him how the fire line went from where you stand to the well and then zigzagged to the barn. And after the farm equipment blew to the sky, tell him how the furnace did the same. A chain of events, explain, a chain of events. After the windows kicked out, there wasn't much anyone could have done. And after Herm asks if you would do it all over again, tell him you would. But come anyway, Herm. Tell him that. Okay, at this point, I want you to, again, pull out one good example of each of the 5 traits. So in the end, you should have 2 examples. One good example from the first part of the story and one good example from the second part for each of the 5 traits. Make sure your paper's labeled clearly. So I want you to quote the text as well as tell me what trait you're using that quote for and why it's a good example. Again, you should have one set for the first part of the story and one set now for the second. Pause the presentation here if you need to finish that part. And let's talk about what you're going to be doing for week 2. So first, you're going to listen to Serial Episode 2 and complete the discussion board and the Curiosity Quest introduction. All of that should be done first. Remember, initial posts on the discussion boards are always due Wednesday by 11:30, and replies are due on Friday. Then you're going to start the personal narrative unit. First, you have some pre-writing to do. Make sure you read the handout that assigns the personal narrative first. It will be important to do that before you start the pre-writing because the worksheet has prompts on it. Next, make sure you complete the voice thread on acts. This is about dividing a story into acts. We're going to use that as we play with time with your own story. Then there are 2 sets of mentor texts this week, each with discussion boards. There is set 1 and a discussion board. Remember, initial posts are due Wednesday night. And then there's another text set 2, and there's another discussion board that, again, initial posts are due Wednesday night, and you're replying to 3 people by Friday. Then the brain dump of your personal narrative is also due on Friday. That is where I just want to hear your story. So sit down at your computer, write the story that you want to use for this first assignment from beginning to end. That is your brain dump. It is due Friday. Okay, so number 4, in your email, please ask any questions that you have about anything with the course, any of the content for this week, any of the content from last week. Have a great week. Please come to office hours. Again, they're on Tuesdays from 8 to 9:50 and Wednesdays from 8 to 9:50. Those times don't work for you. You can always email me and set up an appointment. Again, now that you're done with this video, I want you to send me an email that answers number 1, number 3, on number 4. Remember, number 2 is that secrets assignment that you will actually submit to the assignment folder. Have a great week. Please ask questions if you have any, and I'll see you for week 3 Zoom class on Monday.